Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Event Marketers Toolbox. My name is Caitlin Carey, and I'm one of the co-hosts here with Chris Dunn, my other co-host. So welcome. Our
Hey,
episode
Caitlin.
is all about showing me the results. So we're going to talk about how to prove your event's worth. Now, this is something that I get asked about, but from clients from the start to the end of the project. How are we going to show that this crazy investment of time and money is going to be worth it? So that's where I wanted to introduce our special guest, Chris Dancy, who's joining us today. So welcome,
Hey,
Chris.
what's up, Chris?
Hi.
Welcome aboard.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Fantastic.
Chris is an industry pro and data expert who has created unbelievable events and has been a huge help to me whenever we need to use data to empower, spend and events. He really has a creative way of looking at data to empower planners. So to give you a little bit of insight into what we'll be talking about today, after we kick it off with some industry news, we're going to talk about Dare Table, which is Chris Dancy's signature event that he hosts every year. Then we're going to talk a little bit about ROI and data that matters. And then we'll round it out by talking about empowering event marketers and how we can really use data to spearhead our event strategy. So without further ado, Chris, I know Chris Dunn, I know you're in New York City this week.
I am. So, yeah. And I think, Caitlin, I know you are because we had dinner last night. Chris, you're based out of New York as well, yes?
Yes, sir.
Yes, he is. Okay, great. Well, so I think, hey, listen, it's our first live event, and we're going to bump our way through, but we're going to get better as we go. I'm positive of that. We're going to start off with just a little bit of industry news and what's going on. So I'm in New York for NRF. It starts on Sunday, but basically everybody already knows this. It's freaking cold. Holy crap. Cold to go to the hall. It's cold in the hall. It's cold everywhere. So shout out to all the people who are on the show floor setting up NRF at the Javits. Doors are open, freight's coming in. It's chilly. So there's that. The other thing I wanted to just jump into or just mention, obviously because this episode in particular is heavy on the data. I recently saw some stats from a group called the Exhibitor Advocate. And this is an independent group that basically kind of goes out and interviews a whole ton of exhibitors. They're stepping into this advocacy role. So the thing that stuck out to me, which I thought was really kind of interesting, is that by and large, the demand for events is robust. People absolutely recognize their value. Getting face to face, like it's never been more important to do that. And at the same time, there's this huge friction with the costs and budgeting. It's like exhibitors and event people are trying to wrap their arms around this budget monster that's just a moving target, and they're really struggling with it. So I think what we're going to talk about today is so pertinent, because if you want to do events but you're having trouble figuring out how to handle the front end, it all comes down to the ROI and making sure, like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. We got to spend to that level, but we got to get the ROI. So anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting that those two things are meeting, at this kind of critical mass location. And again, perfect timing to kind of bring in Mr. Dancy here to kind of help us understand how some of those data points can work.
Love it. Well, I always love knowing what's going on at the Javits. There's always a buzz in the city when there's something exciting going on. So that's great. So Chris, before we kick things off, I think of you as an event expert. You host one of the biggest events. You were in New York City this year with Dare Table in October. So before we dive into the details, could you just share a little bit about Dare Table and what it is and how it's grown?
Absolutely. So I first have to apologize. I have a little bit of a cold, so I normally don't sound like I'm this butch. I'm an Airtable enthusiast advocate. Airtable is a cloud-based database system, $10 billion company. I think they're valuated at, used by everybody from Netflix to probably your neighborhood plumber. It's the enterprise tool that no one knows about. And I've been using it since 2018. And In 2020, I realized while Airtable itself has a very robust community, it felt very off-putting to me. There are people who are very technical, and there are people who really don't know anything. So I wanted to create a space where anyone with any level of expertise could go and be with other people, kind of like what Caitlin's done with Pop Event. Just and whether you're doing the biggest events or you're just starting out, all toolboxes are welcome. And I built something called Dare Table, which was just a pun off of Airtable, Dare to be Airtable. And our first event was in 2020, and it was virtual. We had about 1,000 people sign up, and about 100 people come to our virtual event. The next year, I said, let's try to do an in-person event and get people to buy tickets hard and fly in from all over the country. And that event was in Austin, Texas. I lost about $8,000, but I did get 100 people from around the country to fly in, and all the speakers, all the content was obviously built on Airtable. And then the following year, we did the next one, and that was in San Francisco, and I hosted it at Airtable headquarters. We had about 150 people come to that. We made about $20,000 on that. We got people to buy tickets, content, people to fly in. Airtable gave us a place. And then this year, we actually said, let's go big. So we spent about $100,000 in New York City, and we got about 350 people to fly in from all over the world. We filled our content. We made a nice chunk of change, and we've announced and are already selling tickets for next year in Chicago at Willis Tower. So I've gone, to put it very simply, I've gone from a D-list internet celebrity who got paid, tens of thousands of dollars to speak at events, to someone who said, I'm not making those mistakes, to building my own through the help of people like Caitlin and the decade of events that have paid me to be there, to watch their pain points, to not recreate them.
That's amazing. And I appreciate you being so transparent with the numbers. That's something you're not scared of, and you make me, less scared of them as I talk about events and numbers go hand in hand. So that's
Yeah.
great. I appreciate how you talk about how it grows. You didn't just come out of the gate hosting a, $100,000 event in New York City. It grew, it took time. And in Airtable too, that's one of my favorite tools that you've introduced me to. And year after year, I know you added some cool features like Ask My Boss and cool things you did with the website and AI.
So I think what's really interesting about the model we've created with Airtable is because it's an Airtable conference, it had to be built on Airtable, right? And then we needed to build everything Airtable, from contract management to location selection, to vendor management, to speaker selection, to agenda, to website. So every year we've added components of it. This year we were so excited, we actually added an AI component that you would answer a few questions about what you did for work, and the AI would take our speakers and our agenda, match it to your company, your company's real-time profile that it would look up on the internet, your specific job role, and create a custom convince my boss letter. And out of the 60 or so people who use that tool, 98% of them came through. So it literally got people to the event. People asked if they could customize the tool for other things they want to do. So again, I think to me, technology, tools, and people meet at Airtable. We're not afraid to promote. We're not afraid to. We pay every speaker. If you've done events, you know how hard it is to, if you're not having sponsors speak, the talking heads. We said, no, we're going to pay every speaker, and we're going to make them audition, and they're going to work for that money. We involve our this year at our event, we didn't have food catered in. We gave them gift cards and said, go out in the city and enjoy yourself. So, at 57, I'd seen enough events to say, I know what I don't like and I know what I want. And that's power. And I want people to feel empowered.
I love that. And I really feel like you did such a great job really making it a blend of, creating a community event that feels fresh and exciting and really empowering the users of the technology to be the speakers at the show. It wasn't about Chris Dancy. It was about Airtable, making it fun, making it relevant. And I've never been at an event where everyone walking in the door was just excited to be there and just excited to contribute and excited to speak. And it was an incredible event. So it's on my calendar for Chicago this fall. Chris Dunn will have to get you out to Chicago too.
I could not. I could not have done it without working with you for a few years on everything you've done with Pop Event. I mean, you've really helped me understand, because I don't consider myself an event marketer, much less one with a toolbox, right? I consider myself an amateur trying to pretend to be one. But learning like the pain points that I see, and I've heard you and Chris talk about, that was empowering for me, because like I had to do more than just be an event marketer with a toolbox. I had to be a strategist. I had to take every good part of everything. And you guys know, you can throw all the money at the event in the world. If you don't have the energy of the event, if it's not there in the people coming and speaking and not in there in the vendor, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because trust me, you guys know, I couldn't get paid enough to do that. It's so much work. I don't care if it made $100,000 more. I do it because I love it.
I love it. That's awesome. It really shows. It really shows. I wanted to just paint the picture of your unbelievable Dare Table event, and would love to turn the page and turn it over to you, Chris Dunn, talking a little bit more about data and ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So, for anybody out there who's actually Googled Chris Dancy, you may discover that it does come up that he is, in fact, the world's most connected human. So it seems like a pretty good title, a pretty interesting title to be a guy who's really into data. So, Chris, I'm going to play contrarian here. Like, you're the guy, you're the most connected human in the world. What have you done to kind of create data points, information capture that helps capture and track ROI for events? Because I know that you and Caitlin have worked together with one of our common customers, Easy Cater. You guys are all about kind of pulling the data together. Give us a little glimpse in that, because I think there's a lot of folks who are going to see this who are more on the trade show and maybe they do some corporate events, but if they're really kind of working within a larger event, how might some of the work that you've done, some of the technology that you've either built or deployed, potentially work for folks who are looking to capture data on the trade show floor?
Yeah, I mean, I've been really fortunate when working with that common vendor that you mentioned, and Caitlin, and of course my own, to just, again, not be afraid of embracing all the numbers of the show. And that really means creating a system that fell into three buckets. There's the forward-facing bucket, which is things we're considering doing. We may have done them in the past, we may not have, but we at least have them marked down someplace. And that involves a lot of research and investment in time. And time is money. So creating a system for them where they could see these things on a calendar and start to weigh them objectively. But to weigh them objectively, you now need to go from the future to the present. And our present, our calendars there, we can see the future. Our present system is really a selection of data that allows them to see, the more traditional ROI. So when I say traditional ROI, it's all the stuff that people love. So how much did it cost us? What did we get out of it? Was it speed? Was it, a booth? How big was the booth? But also like number of staff we needed to send. I've got charts and graphs for all this type of event. So who was our audience we were trying to meet, and what percentage of the audience of that event were there? So for this particular vendor, they have two audience segments they focus on: demand and supply for their services. And then we had to look at that spend by region, because obviously events are no good if you're not empowering a sales team, right? So we had to look specifically at the sales teams in those specific regions and where they were trying to target. And then the last bucket was what I would call the fearless bucket. So it's the past. And that's where we objectively take all of the future looking possibilities, the current looking, vanilla ROI metrics, and combine them with metrics that are more, difficult. So we not only did we, have $10,000 in, for our booth, but we had 3 people there. Those 3 people total burden with their travel was another $31,000. And then 2 of them got sick with a cold afterwards. They were out a week, where there's another $7,000. And then, what was the emotional toll? So we created a system where anyone who participated in a show filled out a 3-question survey where they typed a bit and answered 2 questions, and then AI mined that for sentiment analysis and then created a burden cost for that. So we've got these very 3 separate buckets that are using, in some cases, very esoteric data, right? So we're not afraid to say, how did you feel at the event? And then we take that and we funnel that information back to the top. So when we're thinking about going back to an event, we can go back to our partners with contracts and our vendors and say, these things didn't work for us. You promised us, and these are the numbers. What are you going to do to lower your costs to get us back? Because we can't do it like we did it before. And Jim, who came to 3 of our events, gets sick after every event. Jim's boss says it's worth having Jim at that event every single time. So I say, we need to really interrogate events as deeply as we would our own family about what's working and what's not, and not be afraid of the kind of subjective, soft, ugly parts of, well, what does an event really do to our people? And not only does it hit the bottom line, which is easy to tell, right? But what's the bigger bottom line? Because I don't think the fully burdened emotional and physical costs are in events in any capacity.
I love how you mentioned the physical and emotional costs, because I think that when I sit down with you, at the end of the year, and we have executives saying how many leads, how much spend, you get in this defensive mode and you're kind of on your back foot saying, oh, this is why I did this is why I did that. And it's not the seat we need the event marketer to be in. Like they're part of the growth team. They're bridge between sales and marketing. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think when you look at the numbers with events, it's so important to take another step back to get that bird's eye view as to like what really went into this and what really came out of it, and how we can move forward. So I love what you said.
And to the end, just the people management part of it. So the people who we have come to our events, right? Our employees, that's been radically changed by the system, because we know right away what's working and what's not. The other thing is, just because an event got us less net leads, it was cheaper, and the employees and our customers and we got back, we're better customers. So again, just because you get a good customer doesn't mean they're a good customer. So again, it's about the fully burdened opportunity and cost of the event. And you can really only do that with a subjective amount of quantified metrics you're not afraid to ask for pre, during, and post event. And we have surveys built around all of this for our different partners.
Yeah. Chris, if I could just ask for a little bit more clarification kind of on that, like post event kind of metrics track, so there's this giant outlay, right, to do the event. And then there's the tracking of what does the pipeline look like? Have we dropped a bunch more opportunities into that pipeline? Are they progressing? Are they moving towards sales? I don't know, paint the picture with what kind of time frame are we talking about post show before you can really wrap your arms around, like, what was our success metrics on it based on your understanding, or at least your experience?
Yeah. So for this specific system we built, I mean, one of the biggest, I guess, fail points was our integration to Salesforce, right? Just because a lead comes in, however that's captured on the floor, we still have to make sure that lead gets into Salesforce, and we have to make sure it's tied back to our event. An event marketer is busy enough without making sure that the Salesforce has been updated about our events and the tracking. Finding out that some of our leads weren't actually tied back to the events they came from. That's a big deal, right? So tightening up that lead, which meant going to the actual scan system and making sure we understood what that was, and then ourselves having a real-time integration. So we have a real-time integration with our system back to Salesforce. We can see. We know right away when there's a lead that Salesforce said that didn't come from us, right? There's a new lead 7 days after we were at an event, not in our event system, but it was in our scan. So I think Chris Dunn, the big step there was making sure that we weren't afraid to hold the sales team accountable for what they did with our data.
Okay.
The other side of that coin was not being afraid to hold our team. So, you go to an event, you're drained, you don't want to do anything after the event. You never even want to think about that event again. But the reality is we need to know how that event went for you. So we have a survey that goes out during the event to our employees. What type of people are you meeting? How do you feel? What is the vibe in the room? Very, very mushy stuff, right? And afterwards, similar questions, talk about, did you have any unexpected, incidents? Did you feel safe? We had one of these things that went out afterwards. So someone didn't feel safe at the event. Someone was like kind of being creepy. These are things you can't measure, that you don't understand the impact that then culturally pervade the organization. So again, I think when you're talking about more specifics, all of our numbers in the world aren't going to justify our jobs unless we make sure the numbers that we're sending back to the company and the information so far, I haven't talked to anyone, they're not getting it from their team there. How'd you feel? Oh, it was a great event. You know, if it's a city you love, it was an amazing event, right? But the reality was, how was it on the floor? Are these people hungry for what we have? How did our message resonate? You know, it's not easy. You know, you're on a petting zoo for pretty people on that event floor, and it's really about making sure that everybody feels comfortable and we're getting good relationships. And at the end of the day, I'll close with this. I want to send people to those events who are going to be hired by the customers who are coming and talk to them. I want people so intrinsically interesting that our customers want to hire them away, because that gets them in our door. We can sell them something. So don't be afraid to send the most intoxicating people who might not be on the company line, but you could talk to them all day long because they're interesting. That's how you make it work. It's not about gimmicks and gadgets and oxygen mask and swag. It's about people you want to be with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's, you know, again, we're talking data, but at the end of the day, you just, you know, drove that home. It's like, it's about the people. Your people need to be engaging. Your people need to, you know, be great conversation starters. They need to,
and you know what?
Be interested.
The reason I brought that up, Chris, is because those people are expensive. They're the higher performing people in the company. We don't send to shows, right? But again, if what you want from the show is engagement, you have to send someone engaging. It's just
nice job.
Not hard math, right?
Don't just send the wallflower and have them sit in the corner.
I love that. And it's so true. Events are all about people. And at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all going to make it work. It's all going to come together. So I think that's huge to roll that out at the beginning and to let your team that you're going with, hey, you're going to get a survey before, during, and after. And this is why we're doing it. Look at this incredible dashboard. And I just think setting expectations, over communicating, and really ultimately thinking about the experience. This isn't some, you know, Zoom call in the future of, oh, what do we want to do that's experiential? No, that's embedded from the beginning. When we're talking about data, what are we going to measure? It's not just leads. It's not pipeline. It goes so far beyond that really event marketers should see this as a huge opportunity to, you know, grab the wheel, take advantage of the data, and really position themselves as a growth marketer who is there for the sales team that's driving sales and working so closely with sales. So I really resonate with what you said.
Something else I see, Caitlin, that I find really disturbing, at least in our event, because we have sponsors at Dare Table, right?
Yes.
So like, I tell them, when you come to Dare Table as a sponsor, you're there not as a commercial for your company, but as a participant in the conference. If you're there to commercialize your product, wrong conference, right? If you want sponsors to get involved and our event marketers, we need to realize that our external events are extensions of our workplace.
Completely.
They're not commercials for it.
Completely.
And once people buy from culture, and I think creating those things would just be wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We do have a comment coming in from someone named Matt Barron. Did you guys see these comments?
Yeah, I did. Hey, Matt. Awesome. He can't unhear the trade show being a petting zoo. I think that's our mic drop moment right there from Mr. Dancy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Our expos in the summer, we always joke they're like a petting zoo, like an experience fair. You know, everyone loves that. So
yeah. Hey, just I wanted to.
I grew up in the '90s when they would use concepts like booth babe. I don't even know if that's a real thing anymore. But
Not
like,
so
you would
much.
always send the prettiest people to stand in your. Yeah.
Is that why I've never been invited to go to a show? Yeah, things have become a little different.
No,
you're the poster child for booth babe. That's absolutely true. Hey, Chris, I kind of want to bring in, I think, the perspective from our team, right? On the Blue Hive side, we design and build exhibits. We're trying to create this experience within a space. So it's more than just the booth. And we really kind of lean into the idea of the more senses that we can engage with the attendee, the more memorable that experience becomes or is, right? So to create that lasting impression. On the data side, sometimes, again, that can be kind of cut and dry. That can be really numbers related, but you guys are doing a great job of kind of shining a light on what's the reality of the situation kind of, post-show. Don't be afraid to kind of ask the questions, to kind of look, behind the curtain. Did we try to sweep a bunch of dirt under the rug? or whatnot. So I love the fact that you guys have this kind of questionnaire, and you're really kind of leaving no stone unturned. But I guess what I wanted to tie into that is when you do create that memorable experiences, engaging with those senses, what does that look like from the data that comes back? It might be as simple as like, I literally walked into the booth because you guys were baking cookies, and I could not unsmell the smell, or the amazing video wall that's just playing that that eye candy piece that really kind of drew me in. So when you were putting that survey out, hopefully you're getting that type of feedback from your sales team who's like, hey, I was talking to this guy, Jim. He's now in our pipeline. He literally came in because of the popcorn. He came in because of this really cool engagement that we were doing. So it's nice to understand from a metric standpoint, like what was working, what was not working, and be able to lean into that when you're looking at that post-show data too.
Well, unfortunately, Chris, I haven't had the pleasure of working with Blue Hive yet. But as someone who is absolute zealot around sensory exploration, I have a home. You can go to PersephoneManor.com right now. My house actually changes sense, smells, feelings, touch each day toward the next season. The clocks on my wall are showing you back here where we are in time. You can check it out. It's been on TV. But I do think what you brought up was something really interesting is how do you quantify the experiential? And one of the things I was asked when I wrote my book, Don't Unplug How Technology Saved My Life and Can Save Yours Too, was how do you measure love? How do you measure someone? You can't measure that. I said, you most certainly can. Love is measured by what happens when you're no longer there to provide it. Because love is guide rails and training for everything you will do in the future when you are unloved. So in that sense, an experiential event should be what people expect from the next booth, next show. And those things actually can be measured. So by asking someone what they missed before they came to your event or before your booth is a great way to do that. Also making sure that when we get those leads in and we find out that people came, not being afraid in the sales process to go back to the event. What was it at the event that made you want to work with us? So often we're worried about selling the product, not about what made them interested in the first place. Too many salespeople have a predestined space out in the future where it's a commission check for this, not what made you interested in me in the first place. I'll tell you one thing, if you've ever been young and dated and someone picked you up at the bar, you wear that same sweater every damn time you see them again in the future. Why? They loved it, right? So not being the metric of emotion and making sure you find a way to capture those, because love is nothing more than unmeasured memories presented in the future.
Very cool.
Wow.
Love that analogy.
There you go. Fantastic. And do you think that when you talk about that love, it's ideally you leave that attendee. Oh, hey, look who's in back there. We got a four-legged friend kind of tuning in right in back of you. You hope that love is transferred to, oh, hey, how's it going? Look at that. We're talking about events. We have pets. We have dogs. We have likely cats, goldfish. Chris has got some sensory overload craziness at his house. It's all good. It's all good. No, that's awesome how you kind of tie that in. So I think, as we're getting ready to kind of wrap up here, are there a few things, Chris, that you want to kind of put out there to our audience who event professionals, maybe on the trade show side, maybe more on the corporate event side, but just kind of help us put a bow around everything we've kind of talked about today and leave some folks with some takeaways.
Yeah. I think one of the things I love about your show, because I got to listen last week and I've heard about some of the ones you're planning, is the fact you do these 3 takeaways at the end. And for me, my takeaways are super simple. And the first one is, don't be afraid of the total cost, including time and emotion. Don't be afraid of it. Figure out how to measure that. You all can agree on it and put it in the bottom line. Second thing is embrace the subjective. Don't be afraid to get surveys out before, during, and after from all stakeholders about how they felt about the event. Put that in the bottom line. And most importantly, use those first 2 data points to leverage in who gets invited next time, what contracts and how we negotiate those contracts, and more importantly, with all of our partners, who's paying and why. Because at the end of the day, the bottom line is great, but it's not the bottom for no reason. It's literally the bottom. And we need to focus a little bit higher than the bottom line if we ever want to be top performing people.
Love that. Love that.
Bottom and the top. I know. Yeah. We should just end right this second.
I know. I love that.
Have to end on a high point.
Yeah.
Rocket would be okay. Rocket would be okay with that.
Good. I love a pet sighting. That I love talking to Chris Dancy about is just really how we empower event planners. Oh, there's Rocket. We empower these event marketers to really take the data, grab it by the horns and really use it to their advantage, so that when, Chris, we're talking to your team about the booth, all of the survey conversations, and you're really getting all of the stakeholders input from the beginning, and you're measuring it so that at the end of the year, when you're asked for that report, you're asked for all that data. Here we go. Here's our
it's a parade of dogs.
I love it. You're able to have all that data and keep moving it forward. So then you're able to rationalize these large budgets for the year ahead. So Chris, I know you do that. You help me look good with all of our clients as we look back on the year, not afraid of data, looking beyond the leads. So really empowering planners is something that, I wanted to take away from this, so that they're not just people that plan.
And double check and double check the data you're sending back. Make sure it's getting into the sales system.
100%. That's always.
Often we don't know that all of our leads got. It is what it is. But yeah, it's been great. You guys are doing such a great job. I love the fact you're empowering our community of marketers with your toolbox.
Thank you. Growing community here. First live show, and this is a blast. I don't know. This is setting the bar super high. Caitlin, we should probably let all of our future guests know that they're going to be expected to show up with pets, and just like out of control mic drop moments. Yeah, we started really high. Rocket's getting some fan mail here. Things are good. Yeah, absolutely. So cool.
You, Chris Dancy, so glad to have you on the show. Really appreciate you jumping in and talking about data. Where is the best way for people to find you? LinkedIn or?
The world's most connected human?
I'm terrible at social media. Yeah, I'm terrible at social media, so you can find me anywhere. You just Google most connected, my name will come up. But my favorite new mic drop moment for where you can connect to me is I'm one of the few people that's so well known on the internet that you can go to ChatGPT right now and say, who is Chris Dancy? Now emulate Chris Dancy and let me talk to him. Because my whole book and my life is up in ChatGPT. I was one of the indexed people.
Unbelievable. Wow. Chris Dunn, we've got
I don't know if I want ChatGPT knowing that much about me. It seems on the edge.
Right, 2025.
That's right. I guess embrace it. Go big or go home. Right.
Totally.
Indeed. Well, are we only going to do guests that have the same name as one of us? Because I've got my boss Caitlin, who we're going to bring on. We want to add as much confusion as possible to, like, hey Chris, what do you think about this? Hey Caitlin, what do you think about that?
I love it. Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
well, thank you everyone for joining us live. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can subscribe to our live series, and we'll be back next week, same time, same place, where we'll be talking more about corporate events and how to raise the bar for your strategy this year. So thank you all for joining. Great to be here.
Thank you, Chris Dancy. Thank you, Caitlin. And goodbye, all. Have an awesome week.
See you.
Bye.